So I got some oil that I'd drawn off as a sample here, and you can see, you know, the centrifuged oil is pretty darn clear already, which is good. Okay, we're going to do a turmeric titration on biodiesel, and the things you need for that are a scale that measures accurately to a gram. The magnetic stir is optional, you can just stir it by yourself, and maybe a beaker or two, a 1 liter to hold your KOH solution, turmeric, 3 syringes, including 1 for used oil, isopropanol 99%. This one I got at London Drugs. Normally I get it from work, but I didn't have any left today. Some distilled water, and then we'll get started. Okay, so here we got some 90% KOH flakes. You want to use your gloves and preferably a respirator when you're getting this stuff out of the bag. It's quite potent. So this is totally clean. And we want 1 gram of KOH in here. This scale is really sensitive, so just take your time. We're at 1.2 there, you see. One little piece less. Oh, that's too much. Just take your time with this stuff. I even want to just take one by hand. There you go, there's 1 gram. So we want to get a liter of water in our jug here. This is a 1 liter jug. And I'm just going to dissolve this KOH with some water in the beaker, just to make it easier. And we'll rinse that out again after. So that's going to dissolve. Then we're going to rinse that out with some more water, and we're going to put all the liquid in here and get 1 liter total. Alright, now we've got 1 gram of 90% KOH in here, and what's important is that you're using the KOH from the bag that you would be using to make your biodiesel. If it's been sitting around for a while and it's got a little weaker, that's okay, because this, by determining your titration from the KOH you have, it's going to have an accurate calculation of what you need to add. So let's get started here. We've got a little magnet in there for the magnetic stir that we're going to use. We'll bring that to the front here. Okay, and the first things first, I'm going to double up these quantities. Normally you go 10 milliliters of alcohol, 1 milliliter of oil, and then you add the KOH to change color with the turmeric inside the mixture. So first of all, we're going to get some alcohol here. Hopefully this fits inside. There we go. So these syringes are 10 mils. So we have 1, 2. Okay, that's 2 syringes, that's 20 mils. Now we're going to add a tiny bit of turmeric to that. It's actually too much already. All you need is just a tiny bit. Okay, now we're going to go with our oil, just to get the bubble up there. Okay, so we're going to go 2 mils because we're doubling everything up. So we're going from 10 mils down to 8 mils. That's it there. Okay, so we're doubling up the usual recipe. Now we're going to get that stirring here slowly. So what we're going to look for now is a color change. So we want to use another syringe that we haven't used yet. This one's brand new, and we're going to go off our KOH solution here. We're going to draw out 10 milliliters. That's 10 milliliters right there. And what we're looking for now is a color change. So we add it slowly. You see it's going to go red. You want to watch that there's a color change. You keep adding it slowly until you get a solid color change. So it's still yellow there. You want it to be fairly red. You can see as I add it in, it changes blood red. Still good. I'm getting close. There we go. So what you want to look for is this change in color to red. I might just add a couple more here, a couple drops. And you want that color to change to that color and stay that color for at least 30 seconds, and you know you've done it right. And we're currently at about 2 mils. So we've used about 8 mils to react this. Okay, so let's do the math on this. We did a double recipe in the bowl here. Instead of 10 milliliters of alcohol, we used 20 milliliters. Instead of 1 milliliter of oil, we used 2 milliliters. And we used 8 milliliters of the KOH titration solution. So that means we need to divide that by 4, or by 2, sorry. So that means if we did the usual recipe of 10, 1, and add the KOH solution, we would take that number and we would add that number to 7. 7 grams is your base recipe of KOH. In this case, we've got 8 that we added, divided by 2 is 4, so we've got the base recipe of 7 grams of KOH per liter of oil. And so we've finished our titration. What we had was a measurement of 8 milliliters of titration liquid that went into our double recipe of oil. So we're taking all our numbers, divide them by 2. So we put 8 milliliters in to change the color of the solution. We divide that by 2, that gives us 4. The base recipe for KOH biodiesel is 7 grams on a liter of used oil if it was virgin oil. With our acid test, we had to add a certain amount of base to this acidified used oil. Our number was 4, so we put in 4 milliliters. So we take 7 plus 4, and that gives us our total. So it's 11 grams per liter of oil that we're adding to 21 or 22% methanol, and that's going to give us a good reaction with the biodiesel. So we pumped in about 10.5 gallons of methanol, and our oil's hot. Just pumping it in to the processor now, and we'll see how much we got in here. Probably 48 gallons will do, and then we'll add the rest of the stuff to it. Okay, so we've got 48 gallons in there. Pop the lid on. Next thing we do is we're going to measure the KOH. In our case, this is just under 2 kilos of KOH that's going into the 10.4 or so gallons of methanol. And we're going to mix it all together. Okay, here's your KOH. And you got to wear your safety equipment, gloves, everything, okay? This is not fooling around. I've seen people dig the KOH out of here without using a mask, and frankly I think they're insane. So anyhow, use a nice stainless bowl, make sure it's clean. And we need 1995 grams, so we're going to scale that up and it's going to go into the methanol processor. Okay, so we got just over 3 hours of mix time set up. And now we're going to mix the two together. You can see we got the liquid in here and the liquid in there. We're going to open up the big tank. Going to fill up the pump and we'll start circulating. That's circulating from the bottom of the big tank back up to the big tank. Now to get the methoxide in there, we're going to cut down the valve here and we're going to open this slowly. It's hard to see, but this level now here is dropping gradually. You don't want to go in too fast. Now we're down to 9 gallons. So we're going to mix that all together. You'll see this level go up because we're adding this to here. All right. Now it's pumping through into the big tank, circulating, and we've got 56, 57, 58 gallons in here. And we'll let that go for 3 hours on the timer. And once it stops mixing, we'll gradually see this separate over, probably takes half an hour at the most, and you'll see a really good separation already of your glycerol and your biodiesel. Alright guys, today is going to be our second attempt at acid neutralization using sulfuric acid. And we've got about 325 milliliters of water with 10 milliliters of sulfuric acid. Last time I think we used 25 or 30 milliliters of sulfuric acid. And it was too much, so basically we've gotten rid of all the glycerol in here, and we're going to start running the circulation pump. This is now our clear biodiesel. We've only removed the methanol, we haven't done any water washing, and you got to put this sulfuric acid in there before you do the water washing. So we're just going to fire up the pump and pour it in there. So again, 300 something milliliters of distilled water and 10 milliliters of sulfuric acid. Make sure you wear gloves for this. Don't fool around with this stuff. And we'll let it mix for a few minutes. It's already going a weird kind of color for a second there as reacting, neutralizing the excess KOH that's in the biodiesel. Clear it up again. So all we're doing here is we're neutralizing the excess KOH so that we have to do less water washes. And the water washes will be the next step. And we're going to measure the pH of the water coming out of the first water wash to determine how we're going to do this next time, if we're going to add more than 10 milliliters or if 10 milliliters is still too much sulfuric to neutralize the excess KOH. If our wash water comes out, you know, below 6 or 7 pH, then we've added too much sulfuric. If the wash water comes out as, you know, 9, 10, pretty alkaline still, then next time we try this, we're going to add more sulfuric, but you cannot add this after you've already done a water wash. It doesn't work. So now we're adding the first wash water. We had 47 gallons of biodiesel. And we're going to add probably 9-10 gallons of wash water. So we originally added 10 milliliters of sulfuric acid and 350 mils of water into the finished separated biodiesel. That did not work that well. The pH of the wash water was still coming out as, you know, 11 on the pH scale, which is pretty caustic on the first wash, and the second wash wasn't a lot better, so I added another 5 milliliters of sulfuric to 350 mils of water and poured that in slowly with the wash water spray, which we'll see what the pH is like on this final wash. But at the end of the third wash, which is the one that we used, the sulfuric, we had pH of about 3.2, which is still too low. That's too low on the acidic side. So now we're doing a final fourth water wash, another 5 gallons of warm water, sprayed fine mist on the top, and we're going to measure the pH of that water and see how we are, if we're getting close to 6 or 7, which would be ideal. So that was a bit ridiculous. The pH on the wash water now was 6, and before that it was a little bit alkaline still. I had to add another milliliter of sulfuric acid into about 350 milliliters of water and dump that in with the wash water. And then when you have the acidic wash water in the bottom, you can put your air stone all the way to the bottom and let that wash water come up through. You won't have any soap bubbles or anything forming on the surface, perhaps initially, but not after a while. You'll still get a really good separation from your oil to your water. Basically the acid neutralizes the KOH, so you shouldn't have any soap issues with it. Right now I've only got about that much water on the bottom, and we're bubbling away now. Like I said, pH 6 on the final wash water, which was the 5th wash, so didn't gain any or lose any water washes there, unfortunately. But it's bubbling now, it's drying and heating, so take a look in the top here. It still has a ways to go, but by tomorrow this will be crystal clear and dry and ready to fill into the new fuel station. Alright, here we go. The fuel's dry. We're going to fill it into our fuel drum. There she goes. $45.5 gallons of goodness. Here's another shot of the fuel pump, how I've got it set up. The nozzle just hooks in there on the top. got what looks like a little leak down here and one up there, so I'm going to use some Teflon liquid goop in there, re-Teflon it with the tape, and use a bit of the Teflon liquid stuff, see if that fixes it up. It's a really slow drip off the bottom there. Liquid gold. Okay, so now we're going to perform a 327 test, which is a common test for testing biodiesel to see how well your reaction was. So in this case we're going with 27 milliliters of methanol. Right about there. And we're going to have to use a syringe, so we're going to use a new one for this. Because the other syringes were probably contaminated with other stuff. Gonna draw some fuel in there. Always leave a bit of an air gap. And there we are. That's 3 right there. Okay. Chuck the magnet in there, give it a little stir. Oh, it's not plugged in. I'm going to give it a stir and put something on there. Once that's stirred in real good, we're going to transfer it to one of these vials. So just so you know, these plastic vials are not biodiesel safe, so don't ever leave biodiesel, methanol, whatever in these things. I took a little bit of biodiesel to work to show everybody, and it basically ate the plastic after a day or so. Alright, now we're going to leave the lid on there. And we're going to come back to that in about a half an hour, and see what it looks like. As you can see right now, this is just after we put it in there. It's very uniform, and what we're looking for is stuff dropping out the bottom, changing color top to bottom, that sort of thing. Okay, so we've returned to our sample. It's about 15-20 minutes later. Typically you should wait at least 10 minutes. It's also a little bit cool in the shop right now. It's probably 14-15 degrees in here. Ideal temperature is 68 Fahrenheit, which is 18, I think that's 18 degrees C roughly. So you can get a false positive reading that you had a bad mix when it's really cold temperature. What'll happen is the oil will drop out in a layer in the bottom, and as you can see here, there's really next to nothing on the bottom there. So if you have 1 or 2 millimeters of oil build up in the bottom of this vial, that is basically a failed reaction, and you haven't added enough KOH to react all of the oil, or your titration has been off. if it's clear on the top and not so clear on the bottom, again, that's another problem with the titration, and you probably haven't added enough KOH. You can do this test on unwashed fuel, but it comes out better if you use it on washed fuel. So as far as we can determine from this test here on my biodiesel is that it is likely to meet ASTM requirements for free glycerides, which is the basic test.